welcome everybody to another great episode of Catholic Laughter. I'm Carl Kozlowski, and with me is
Scott Vinci. Thanks for coming out and listening to us. We appreciate you downloading or listening to our podcast, especially on the Theo app. Okay, back to you, Carl.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say that I just want to let people know, if they're new to us, that we're just two Catholic comedians who we like to talk about something funny that's Catholic in the news, and then teach a little bit about an unusual saint each week, and then we have a great interview with a guest comedian. So you're ready for a really fun time, folks. But Scott, I gotta say that one thing I noticed that's really big this week is that there's some news about a big comedian, and there's some really big Catholic comedians out there, like all three of the big late night show hosts: Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, Stephen Colbert. They're Catholic. I mean, Colbert even teaches Sunday school. Like, I'd love to see that. But
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and of course there's like Jim Gaffigan, Ray Romano, and Kevin James. But there's a surprising comic some people are hoping will become Catholic too: Russell Brand. As
What?
I know, right? He just posted an X video showing that he's finding true peace for the first time in his life by reading the Bible and learning about Jesus. A lot of people are betting he goes all the way to becoming Catholic even. So you can see the video on his Instagram. He posted it on January 21st.
Yeah, so basically, maybe he's going to be Russell Rebrand now, because he's rebranding himself as a Christian. We don't know for sure if he'll be Catholic, but maybe he will come out of it that way.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of bets out there. So, yeah. But I mean, if he did go Catholic, I mean, can you imagine sitting in Mass next to him? He never stops talking, throws his hands around all the time. I bet he'd make the "Peace be with you" part go on for 5 minutes.
Yeah. If I was sitting next to him, I'd be like, "What? Weren't you in for getting Sarah Marshall? Should we take this guy to the Greek? Hello, folks." Okay.
Yeah, and he'd probably also be yelling out all his own thoughts during the sermon because he's so opinionated about everything. I mean, the priestess really love that. But
did you watch the video? So in the video, he's sitting down in this, like, it's kind of like a Zen place, and it almost looks like a karate dojo in the background. Did you notice that?
Yeah, it looks like he's doing jiujitsu for Jesus.
What would Jesus do? He would give us a roundhouse kick. That's what he would do.
And like every time we see Russell Brand, he looks more and more like Jesus.
I know, his hair becomes longer. He's got like 12 guys following him around. It's weird. It's weird.
And of course, he ends this profound spiritual moment on X by saying, "Subscribe, like, follow." So, but I think we're happy that he's on a path to Jesus, wherever that leads, and definitely hope he becomes one of his Catholics.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. All right, Carl. Well, we like to have a little bit of substance in every episode. So that's why we love to teach you all about unusual saints in Saints Corner.
Yeah, well, I've got a great one this week. It's Saint
Who's
Barbara.
our saint this week?
Saint Barbara. Yeah. I mean, I found that one Google link calls her the patron saint of anything that goes boom.
Really? That's intriguing. So let's see. It says Saint Barbara was a 3rd century martyr. Her father wanted to have her marry a guy of his choosing, but Barbara told her dad that she was in love with Jesus and would not marry anyone. So her dad forced her to live alone in a tall tower to preserve her innocence.
That sounds like the story of Rapunzel.
It does. It sounds exactly like that.
But her dad brought her to a guy named Martinianus, the leader of the area that they lived in, and he allowed him to torture her. I mean, miraculously, her wounds healed every morning upon waking. And when they threatened to burn her with lit torches, they went out each time they were brought close to her flesh.
Wow. You think maybe the dad was a little strict on that torture? Maybe he should have just grounded her. That's what my dad did to my sister. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But, her father, he actually this is really sad, he assisted in her beheading. But get this, on his way home from the beheading, he got struck by lightning and killed on his way home.
Oh. Talk about what goes around comes around. So seriously, now she's known as the patron saint of fireworks, artillery, and of course, lightning. So I think it's anything.
That's not all. because so many
Yes,
saints have a
Carl.
million different things that they're attached to. So Barbara is also venerated by an impressive array of people with dangerous jobs, including armorers, architects, artillerymen, firemen, gunsmiths, marksmen, gun owners, geologists, spelunkers, miners, sappers, tunneling engineers, lightning, patron saint of lightning, and chemical engineers and prisoners.
Geez, that's one busy saint. Does she ever get a moment of peace at all with all those people praying to her, you know? Uh,
Yeah.
there are lots of guns in that list. I'd like to say it sounds like she's also the patron saint of the NRA. Hmm?
Yeah, well, she's also frequently called up to protect against lightning strikes and even an erupting volcano. But, most of all, she's known for being a saint for people suffering from sudden and unexpected deaths. So it's nice that there's a saint you can turn to when you feel like you're in danger. So she's also a reminder that some of us may be called to be martyrs of the faith. Yikes.
Saints Corner.
Our next guest, she's a favorite Catholic Laughter favorite. She's been on a ton of our shows. Uh, she's also been on Friends, and she's been in that movie Jodie Foster's Flight Plan. And
Wow.
she's written and illustrated some children's books, and she's been on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Please
Wow.
welcome our next guest, Mary Gallagher. Yay! Our guest this week, comedian Mary Gallagher. So first off, Mary, I have to ask.
I should do a Muppet entrance. Well,
Okay,
that's not really a Muppet entrance, but
it was similar, something the Muppets would do. I have to ask you, how long have you been doing comedy, and where did you start doing your stand-up? Where'd you start your stand-up career?
have we met before?
I think we have.
Let's see. Where did I start? I started in college. I started doing funny lip syncs in the bars there because it paid $50 if you won. And then if you made it to the finals and you won the finals, it was $200. So I took these lip syncs very seriously, and I often made it to the finals and I get my $200. And so then I kind of dropped the lip syncing and just did the comedy part, but they were all funny lip syncs. And yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
That's
way
cool.
before TikTok. Isn't that funny?
What was it? What was the weirdest or the goofiest lip sync you did? The one that really you went to town with?
Yes, the one that I really went to town with is I went upside down and I had my legs as my arms, and then I did a paper mache head between my legs, which was Madonna, and I did voguing with my legs.
No way.
Yeah.
That's wild.
And then my friend did the lips like a puppet through the paper mache head, so she was lip syncing. And then we kind of formed a comedy duo, and we started doing comedy as a duo, actually.
Wow,
Oh,
that's
wow.
great. Yeah. So too bad that wasn't TikTok time then, or you would have been really like epic.
Isn't that so funny? We were ahead of the curve. Yeah, but then this was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and then Sam Kinison came to town with
Oh
Pauly
wow.
Shore, and we were asked to open up for him and
Wow.
Pauly, and we did. Never once thinking, I wonder two 21-year-old girls opening up for that audience. I don't know if that's a match.
Have you
Yeah.
seen Pauly Shore since then and talked to him about that?
No, because Polly's opening line was, "Oh, well, those girls sure sucked," and he got like a huge round of applause. So, but you know what? Now that so much time has passed, maybe we'd find it all funny.
Well, as long as you find it funny.
I
um.
find it funny.
So yeah. So how did you fall in love with comedy in the first place? I mean, like, was your family funny, or did your passion develop later in life, like having nothing to do with your family being wacky and whatnot?
We were very serious. There was really not a whole lot of laughs in my house, so I think that's why I was drawn to comedy.
Uh,
And I fell in love with it, I would say, through watching David Letterman and a
oh yeah, me
comedian.
too.
Really?
Yeah.
The best. Would you
Yeah.
watch it live, Carl, or would you tape it and watch it the next day?
This is before we had a VCR. When I really started watching him back when he started, like 83 or 82, something like that. And I would actually set an alarm in my bedroom and wake up just in time to watch the show, watch it as low as possible because I was downstairs from my folks. And then I'd watch it, go back to bed. And they were always wondering why I was so tired and why I kind of had bags under my eyes at like age 11. But
Oh
yeah,
my gosh, that's so
That's
cool.
fun.
You're right. It was before VCR, but I had a beta. Do you guys remember those beta machines?
I've
Betamax,
heard of
yeah.
them.
Beta tape. Yeah, I used to tape Letterman on beta, but I would work all night and then I would tape and then I would watch it in the morning because I usually was working. I was a nursing assistant
Hmm.
and I was out of high school before I went to college. I was working a lot at night. So I just remember being so excited to watch him in the morning. But a comedian came on named Wayne Cotter, and I thought his set from 1987 was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And that's
Wow.
really where I fell in love with stand-up comedy. And I,
Well, that's
did
great.
that thing where you memorize the set and you don't know that you're not supposed to do that. And you're doing it for all your friends and stuff. And then you finally realize, oh, maybe I should go write my own jokes.
Didn't
Yeah,
you say
exactly.
now? Did you say you've met Wayne Cotter since then in
Yes.
person?
Yep. So I was hosting at the Improv on Melrose and Wayne Cotter walked in. And I was like,
Wow.
you're Wayne Cotter. I know your entire set from 1987. He goes, no, you don't. And then we step outside the Improv. I remember we went right outside the front door and I started doing the entire set from beginning to end. And I think Wayne was like, okay, this woman is nuts. I'm gonna call security now. But he was so nice, and I remember he sent me. He sent. I used to do it for my friend Julie all the time, and he sent an autographed photo, and like, yeah, it was just so exciting. I was so excited to actually do his set for him.
Oh, that's
Wow.
awesome. So,
Right?
so you've traveled, around the U.S., the nation, doing stand-up comedy. What would you say is your best experience while you were on the road, and what would you say is like the worst experience on the road that you can recall or remember?
Well, I think oddly enough, they're both the same trip. Right? Like in life. I had a really exciting opportunity about a little under 2 years ago. I flew to France
Hmm.
to you guys know I do like a lot of prank shows. I do a lot of
Oh
prank
yeah, yeah.
shows. And I got hired to go pull a prank on one of Kevin Hart's friends.
Oh
And
wow.
it was all within like 48 hours. I got the phone call and then I went and we did it and we pulled it off and it was so great. So that was so exciting just doing that. But it was also the scariest thing because I had never been to Europe before. I was traveling by myself. It took me 24 hours to get there. The flights kept getting canceled. I got
Wow.
screamed at by someone on a plane because I got off a plane, which I found out you're not supposed to do. Anyway, it was just very dramatic. The whole thing was really dramatic and exciting all in one trip. Um, and I was just like, I can't believe I get to do this. It was just so much fun and scary. And they lost my luggage. So for 5 days in France, I only had the outfit that I had.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then like I remember taking a shower in the hotel room and sending my clothes to the quick laundry that comes right back. What do you call that? Like express? And something happened and I couldn't get my clothes back to me. So I'm like, I am losing clothes every day. Now I'm down to a towel.
Oh
Um,
my gosh.
That's
yeah.
funny.
And then eventually, like 4 days later, I made it to a store to get some more clothes for this thing we were doing for Kevin Hart. But yeah, it was so exciting.
What was the prank? Can you remember?
I can't talk about the prank simply because this was a private thing.
Right.
Oh, okay,
Kevin and
gotcha,
his
gotcha.
friends.
Uh-huh.
But I will tell you that I was very funny, and
Of course.
yeah, and just it was very kind of like very dramatic. It's the kind of thing where you're like, I can't believe we pulled that off to trick people. But I think him and some of his friends, this is what this is what rich fun people do, you guys. They pull pranks on each other. It doesn't matter what they spend.
Hey,
But yeah,
have
I
you
had a blast.
seen Kevin Hart since then, or no?
No, Kevin actually wasn't there. He just sent us, myself and a guy that actually works for him. Um, so no, I've never met him. I'm excited to, meet him one day and to talk about the prank. I heard he was very happy with what I did.
Oh,
Well,
good.
so being an expert at pranks, that's a pretty unique angle for comedy, I think. So, how did that come about? Like, how did you know? How did anyone know that you were great at it? And what would you say is like the key to managing to fool people when you've done it, quite a few times on different shows and everything? What is there ever any risk that people go, "I know you," before you get the joke off?
That has not happened to me, but I always wonder the same thing. I'm like, why would I be hired to trick people? And I think it's because when people meet me, the last thing they're thinking is that Mary is lying to me. You know what I mean? So I feel like I probably was hired because people would think, oh, like I'm a real mom and I'm from the Midwest. There's no way I could be tricking you. But I started out on David Spade's show, Fameless on True TV, and then kind of this same group of people that I've worked for a lot. We did a show called Terrence Howard Fright Club on Fox, which was really fun. That was a long
Yeah, I
form.
saw that. Yeah,
That was
yeah.
so cool. Where we trick someone for like 4 days. And then I started doing prank encounters on Netflix, which is really fun too because the people who work on it are so good with special effects, and we had such great people who did such amazing things that it made it all so real, like thunder and, devils coming out of the wall and just all these really kind of like high level CGI and all these things, monsters and stuff, where it's weird what people believe when it looks good,
Mhm.
Wow, that's pretty
right?
great. Yeah. Well, I mean, inspires when you're writing jokes, or do you have a hand in writing the pranks, coming up with them? Like, what's the process of each?
Yes, so as far as the pranks go, the guy who creates the show, he's the one who does it, and we do kind of meet and improvise as the people pulling off the prank, but there's a pretty set, form going in. Like they have it down to each detail, I'm assuming because of so much could go wrong, As far as stand up goes, I don't know. I don't know if you guys do this. I probably should have a better writing habit, but I can't really do it until something starts to kind of come. And then once it does, I notice a whole bunch of jokes or ideas come at once. So like
Yeah,
I know, do you guys feel that way ever?
yeah, that I've definitely had that happen. So yeah, I know what you're saying. Just inspiration hits and you're in the zone, So yeah,
Yeah. And then I'm just kind of recording, all these ideas over the course of 2 days, and I have all these kind of things to try. And then for a month, nothing,
yeah,
but at least I get that big kind of, I don't know, brain dump or whatever, where a whole bunch of stuff comes. I also notice it usually comes when I'm driving to a show. So I
oh
feel like
wow,
in the mode of doing stand up, that's when your brain is like, oh, we're doing stand up. Here's some more ideas. And I'm like, not now. I don't want the ideas now. But you just record it, you talk, you dictate on your phone through Siri or whatever, and then visit it. And then I'll visit it like a couple of days later.
gotcha.
So I'll switch gears here a little bit. You've done a bunch of shows for us for Catholic Laughter, and we're so happy to have you always. But like, could you tell us? We know you had an experience with the nuns, So could you tell us about your experience you had with the nuns?
Yes, I love nuns. So, like I said, that's so weird. Like I said, when I was right before I went to college to pay for school, I was working as a nursing assistant, and I was working in a convent with the School Sisters of Notre Dame in Wisconsin, and there was 200 nuns at the time in this medical facility. I guess it would be considered a medical care center where they were living out the rest of their life. The average age was 88 years old. On
Wow.
the yeah. And I remember my first day that I arrived, a sister had just passed away, and I was immediately asked to go into the room with the nurse and help give postmortem care. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had never done anything like this. Um, and I just was, I think I matured a lot through that job, and I really liked it. I loved the sisters. I loved caring for people. And I just liked the ability to be able to do this at such a young age. Most of my friends were working at like McDonald's or, you
And,
know,
and you were seeing dead bodies.
yes,
Was that the
It's-
first person you had seen like unalive?
it was. It was, yeah. I had only had my guinea pig die up until that time. And actually, I started at 15. You know how you have to be 16 to do a job? For some
Yeah.
reason, this healthcare center would start you at 15. I'm like, wow, of all the people to not follow rules, the nuns are like, come on in. So I was one of my first friends who was working at 15. I got all my other friends jobs at the convent. We all worked there, but I was the first one, and they paid more than minimum wage, which was huge. This was such a big
Yeah.
deal at 15. So yeah, I just really liked it. I worked there for a couple of years. I helped put myself through college, and I still have some correspondence. My favorite sister passed away.
Wow.
Um, but they have just been very important to me. It was just a wonderful job because I think you guys know some of my material when I talk about this, but they would all say, "We're praying for you, Mary. We're praying for you." And so anytime, something great happens, I think about those nuns. And then when something bad happens, I think, well, one of them didn't pray hard enough.
Now we just had in our we do a Saints Corner segment of the show where we talk about an unusual saint every week, both funny and serious points about them. And like the one this week was Barbara, patron of things that go boom, is how they put it. And anyways, I remember that my favorite nun in Catholic school, St. Edward's, growing up in like fourth grade, I was taught by Sister Barbara. And Sister Barbara, I don't know how she did it because she was like in her 50s. And I can't imagine her pumping iron at the gym or something. But whenever the class got really rowdy and out of control, like if she stepped out for a couple of minutes, she'd wind up back in the door and start flexing her guns at us until everybody like froze up in terror.
Oh
So,
my gosh. She sounds
yeah,
so cool. She sounds so like modern. I mean, if you
Intimidating.
think about it now, 50 lifting weights, right? And like
yeah.
that's
Everybody, be
yeah,
quiet
come
now.
on.
Did you have any weird nuns, Scott?
I didn't have weird nuns. I liked the nuns. Like the nun I had, well, her name was Sister Cecilia. She was a chemistry teacher. And I remember like her first day, she went up to the chalkboard and she's like, look at this. And it was like, it said chemistry. And she goes, chem is try, like the spelling of it. So she wanted everybody to try. Like, you may not always know how to do the problem here in chemistry, but chem is try. And then she had a bird. She had a bird in her class and she would feed the bird. And my brother was at school one day and a bird landed on him. It was a cockatiel. And we took it home and we told her about this bird and we were like, we couldn't take care of the bird anymore. And she was like, I'll take it. And so we gave her our bird and the bird's name was Rocky. But she took care of that bird. And honestly, she's still there. I've seen pictures of
What?
the school. I think she's still teaching there. And I don't know
Man,
how old she is, but she was so nice and so good and She was funny and even keel. She was very she was good. She was good at her job. Yeah.
Well, I remember one other thing with Sister Barbara was I got in trouble once because she said, "Now, boys and girls, just remember that today is the first day of the rest of your life." And I raised my hand and said, "Or the last day of your life so far." And she got really annoyed and sent me out to get paddled by her fellow sister. Yeah.
That's
Wow.
funny, Carl.
No, and this was important because I'm from Wisconsin. Thank you. Thank you. I had to leave because I'm lactose intolerant. I used to go to football games. All the kids had cheese on their head. I had hummus.
Oh, that's funny. So, hey, real quick, Mary, who were your favorite comics growing up, and then who are your favorite comics now? Who do you think?
Oh yeah. So my favorite growing up, like I said, Wayne Cotter on Letterman. Letterman, loved watching Steve Martin, and then I used to watch. Do you guys know who Leo Buscaglia was?
I
Does-
vaguely know. Explain
Okay.
it for everybody. Yeah.
So he was a motivational speaker on PBS, and I think he was known as Dr. Love because
Yeah.
he would always talk about hugging. He was, I think, he was Italian motivational speaker, and he used to do these talks that my family and I would watch on PBS, but he was so funny. He was hilarious. So I think I just had this idea early on. I'd love this idea of like kind of inspirational and personal, funny people and speakers. So I think that just really stuck with me, you know? And as far as today goes, I made a list. Can I read it?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Because do you guys feel like people ask you who's your favorite and you're like, how much time do I have? Okay. So
Yeah.
here's my favorite comics. Bamford, DeGeneres, Angel Gaines, Debbie Gutierrez, Jenny Johnston, Leslie Jones, Laurie Kilmartin, Jackie Cation, Wendy Liebman, Catherine Ryan, Karen Rontowski, Amy Schumer, Kira Stoltanovich, and Taylor Tomlinson. And Seinfeld, Regan, Gulman, Bargatze, Jimmy Brogan, Tom Clark, Wayne Cotter, John Doerr, Jim Gaffigan, Don Friesen, Brian Kiley, Pete Lee, Jimmy Pardo, and I think this person is going to be huge. I don't think you guys know him. He's at Flappers. Libby Salemi. Those are my
Oh,
favorites.
Wow. I could give a round of applause for that lineup. Yeah.
Because you get so nervous when people ask you, and I'm like, how am I going to fit them all in?
I know that's the thing. It's like a favorite, maybe, but I have favorites. You know, like I have a few of each.
Yeah.
Well, who would you say your favorite comedian you've met in person? Maybe aside from Wayne Cotter, because
Ooh.
obviously he's going to always be number one probably for you. But anybody else that you've met in person, and worked with, and got an interesting impression of?
Well, I've brought up Seinfeld to the stage, and I brought up Brian Regan and his brother, and that was the highlight of my, being on the same show with someone. That was absolutely hands down the most cool thing ever. Especially, we're like the same age group, right? So
Yeah.
for me, it's like Seinfeld. Come on, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So
That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. And also, you know what? I opened for Bob Saget in Tempe, Arizona, and he then said, "Mary, do you want to come out with me and my friends? We're going to this party." And I went to a party all night long with Bob Saget.
Wow.
Had the best time. I don't think he was having a very good time because he was sad. He was sad about something that was going on with him and someone that he was no longer seeing. And so I think, we had like, he wanted someone to listen to him, and I was that person. But I really, just saw a really sensitive, wonderful side of a comedian that I had only known as a comedian. So that was cool. Like, just these random things that you get to do as a comedian, like just these 10 hours with Bob Saget and then never ever saw him again.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
funny.
Right?
I have a quick question. So I know you, with your extensive television and film career, you've done a lot of work, and you were on Friends, actually. So I was curious, do you have any memories of being on the Friends set when you were did that episode many moons ago?
I do. I would say the memories that really stand out are the ones that were me making mistakes on a major hit show that I didn't know I was not supposed to do. For instance, after my scene, my manager at the time, he was in the audience. He came to see me. So when I was all done, I ran out to the audience to say hi to him. And then I went back on set. Well, the Friends set had such high security that the people who were at the door going, "Can we help you, ma'am?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." I changed clothes, took a, like I didn't look like the same who was just on I think my hair was up in a ponytail, all my makeup was off. And I said, "Oh, I was just on the show." "Sure you were, lady. Please go sit back down." And anyway, it was this whole thing. They had to make phone calls. They had to stop the show. The stage manager came over. And, that was like my first big television show. And that was the first mistake I made. And then I made several others. But I will say I had a great time. And, that's where I was at in my career. I wanted to be remembered.
Yeah,
That's great.
well, the show's still got big following, so you're always going to
I
be on
didn't,
that.
yeah, good I didn't mess it up for them.
Yeah. Did you ever have any other awkward mishaps with any of the shows you've done?
Oh, so many, Carl. So many.
We're here to
Um,
embarrass you. No I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, yes, I feel like every single job. I feel like a lot, Scott, I don't know if you feel this way, but a lot of times you don't know what's going on. No one tells you. You're just there. You're not the star, so it's like just be quiet till someone addresses you. But there's been times where I've showed up to commercial sets. I have no idea why I'm there, what I'm doing. The copy is constantly changing. And there's just kind of, I feel like everyone else knows what they're doing except me in every situation. Um, yeah. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I remember I did a episode of Alias a long time ago, and I did this at the time. I graduated from college a theater actor. I'm in theater. I do the theater. Stage left is this way. Stage right is that way. The director comes up to me and goes, "Yeah, look, camera left." And I was like, "All right." And so I looked this way, and camera left is when the camera guy's behind the camera, and it's his left hand. Well, I was looking the opposite direction.
Oh,
He's like,
no.
camera left, and I was like, "Oh, okay." And I just was like, I didn't realize that at the time, that technical thing. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but I just played it off. I feel the same way. It's like you just, you do your best, and it's done, and then you don't tell these people stories until 10 years later or whatever.
exactly.
So they don't think
Right?
you're unprofessional. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I once had I didn't audition that much in LA, but I once got one that was a total disaster. I was supposed to play Santa in a wall, and I'm a big guy, if people can't tell from the chin, but I definitely have the belly full of jelly. And so my agent was like excited, like, "Oh, this might be good for you." And I get in there, and I had memorized or practiced the scene, imagining that the Santa is supposed to be sitting down. They didn't really specify either way. So I had it all in my mind about, how I was going to move and have my lap and all of this. And the guy's like, "No, I need you to stand." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "Stand." And for some reason, I was so inexperienced and so set in my ways that I completely went blank. And he finally just told me, "Just get out of here." And strangely, I never got sent to another audition again.
No,
So, yeah.
that's
Oh my
okay.
gosh. I I had this manager that is gone now, but he was around Hollywood for a very long time. And in the end, I was one of his last clients. And he was starting to kind of lose a lot of his abilities towards the end.
Oh,
So he, like his mental capacities. He called me up one day and he goes, "Kid, you're gonna go to Sheila Manning. You're gonna go to Sheila Manning today for an audition. They want you on roller skates." He was like this old time, like Broadway Danny Rose. He's like, "They want you on roller skates, kid." And I'm like, "Okay, so I'll bring roller skates to the audition." He goes, "No, they want you coming in on the roller skates." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" He said, "Of course I'm sure." So I go to Sheila Manning's commercial room and I'm on roller skates and I'm coming down the hall in roller skates. And I remember I also had curlers in my hair because that's what he said they wanted. Sheila comes out of the room. She goes, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you on roller skates on my hardwood floors? Who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Mary Gallagher." And she's like, "Get out of here and take those things off."
oh,
I was like, "Oh my gosh, none of that was true. There was no, you're not supposed to roller skate your way into an office." Anyway, from that point on, I started taking my manager's audition notices with a grain of salt.
wow.
That's
I
funny.
remember the one other audition I had before the disaster with Santa. I got sent a script called The Whale by my agent, and she's like, "Oh, they're looking for unknown actor to play this part." And I was like, so I start reading it. I'm like, "This guy's supposed to be 600 pounds." I'm like, "Really?" And she's like, "Well, don't take offense. Look at it as an opportunity." I'm like, "Oh my God, my first audition, you're sending me for something called The Whale." And of course, that's where Brendan Fraser wound up winning an Oscar when they
Wow.
decided not to use a bunch of fat unknowns like me. But
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. Wow.
A little bit more about me. I'm in a long-term relationship with Citibank Visa. They are so clingy. They call me all the time. I finally had to tell them, "Look, I am seeing other credit cards."
Do you have a funny story about growing up going to Catholic school? I can't remember if you attended Catholic school, but if not, any funny childhood stories that you use in your act today? Like Bucky
Um,
McGinn?
yeah, Bucky. I just feel like I'm gonna run into him one day and he's gonna be like, "I heard you saying my name in your act." Well, I didn't go to Catholic school, but I did go to CCD,
Oh yeah,
and I forgot what that stands for, which
I
I
did
I
know,
too.
don't either.
yeah. But it was like on Monday nights, right? And it was about Catholicism and yeah. So, and I remember that we had to show up on Sundays and after mass, you had to go out into the lobby to sell danishes. This was Wisconsin, so we sold this thing called Kringle, which is
Oh yeah.
this really flat, delicious, sugar-filled Danish. Um,
Good.
and so I always liked selling the Kringle because you got to go leave mass a little early to go set up. So my friend and I, we start like every Sunday moving that time up and up, like I'd say to my parents, like 20 minutes into mass, I'm like, "I think I should go back out there now to sell the Kringle." They're like, "Well, if you must." And then I think once father called us on it and he's like, "Why are you out here when you're supposed to be in there?" We're like, "Father, the Kringle, somebody's got to sell the Kringle." Um, yeah,
That's a you should use that as a bit. That's a good
I should
a
talk
bit.
about the Kringle.
The
Kringle's a
Kringle.
funny word.
I think I've had that. Like I think Trader Joe's had it or somebody had it, and uh, my girlfriend at the time brought it home, and we just kept cutting it and using it. It was great. That stuff's
Oh
good.
yeah. There's no
Yeah.
stopping eating Kringle once you get started on that.
So I have another quick question. You are an author. You've written what, two children's books? Is it?
Yes, I've written a couple of children's books, but the ones that I've actually published, um, My girlfriend Kara, who's a fantastic stand-up comedian, Kara Rossellini, she wrote a children's book and asked if I would illustrate it, and we did
Oh,
that
okay.
together. And a lot of times we perform stand-up together, and then we sell our children's book after the show. And then I did one by myself that I wrote and illustrated. So yeah, I like making books. We originally made them like for our kids. But then we thought, boy, we should self-publish these and get copies. And you know how it goes. You order like 1,000 of them and you're like, oh, I got to try to move these books. You end up giving them away to get two girls just came to the door yesterday for a food collection, and they were Girl Scouts. Actually, they were Cub Scouts, but they were female, which I didn't realize female can be Cub Scouts.
I think it's changed a little bit. Yeah, I'm not
It's
sure
changed a lot. I
exactly.
did not know that. But anyway, I gave them the food, and then they were like 5 and 8, and those are the perfect ages for my books. And I was like, "Oh, you guys, don't move. I'll be right back." And then I ran and got them their books, and I was like, "Can I give you my books?" So I'm always giving them away. Do you guys have my books? Do you need copies of my books?
I do need a copy.
Sure.
I don't have a copy actually. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know
That's
that.
great. Yeah, so I guess we gotta wrap things up here in a second, but where can people find you on social media and
Where can they buy the books?
maybe a
Yeah,
bunch of books?
Yeah.
where can
Yeah,
we see your
exactly.
shows?
So I think I'm most active on Instagram, and I'm my friend Mary. And then I'm on the other sites, a lot of them as my friend Mary. And then my website is myfriendmary.com. Do you see my
Okay.
theme? See the theme?
Very well connected, yes.
Yeah.
Very well.
All right. Well, thanks so much. We welcome you, and we're excited to do more shows with you. Thank you so much for coming, Mary Gallagher. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Carl. Nice to see you guys.
Nice
Yeah,
to
good
see
to see
you.
you.
Yeah.
All right.
I'll see you later.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
CatholicLaughter.com brings live stand-up comedy shows to your church, fundraiser, or event. For more information or to inquire, go to CatholicLaughter.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.